everybody. Today we'll be talking about the Night Witches.
And believe it or not, these people were not actually witches, although that may be disappointing for some of you.
Wait, they weren't actually witches?
No, just freakishly amazing women. Hi, I'm Petra.
I'm Gracie.
And I'm Selena.
And this is Crash Course World History.
World History!
Alright, so the Night Witches really had nothing to do with witchcraft. They were just a group of women who fought for the USSR in World War II.
They were also known to be a part of the 588th Night Bomber Regiment.
But they were called the Night Witches because the Germans thought that their planes sounded like a witch's broomstick. But you know, who really knows what that sounds like?
And the German military was so scared of these witches that each soldier that shot one of these witches down was awarded an Iron Cross.
Even though they flew over 30,000 missions in 4 years, only 32 women lost their lives, which includes the maintenance crew, pilots, and the navigators. And take in mind, most of these girls were between the ages of 15 and 23, younger than some of us. But they were just like us, though, even as they were forced to cut their hair short, wear size 42 boots, and wear hand-me-down threadbare men's uniforms. In fact, there were stories of these women taking makeup and fashion magazines from the German camps when they weren't on duty.
And this year does in fact mark the beginning of the 75th anniversary of their pioneering service on June 8th.
And it truly was pioneering. You see, for the last couple thousand years, women have been banned from combat, and men mostly have fought. And yes, there have been a few exceptions, but Russia truly was one of the first nations to lift the ban on women in combat, even before the US, whose ban remained until 2013.
And many of the girls in the 588th faced the harassment and teasing when they began the training in 1942 at the Eagles Air Base just north of Stalingrad, and yet they persisted.
Many of these girls painted flowers on the side of their planes and used navigation pencils as lip color as they sat in their freezing open cockpits.
And freezing was the word for these girls. Russia's cold climate and snow-covered land was pretty miserable, and the lack of heat, especially since they flew at night when the temperatures dropped, was always a challenge.
One particularly cold winter, they were sighted laying on their wings in a blizzard to keep the wings from shredding and freezing in the brutal winds of the blizzard.
And all of them survived, and every plane flew to the next morning, if you can believe it. Speaking of flying, let's go to the thought bubble.
Okay, so the Night Witches had a very particular way of flying. They would fly in groups of 3, and then when nearing their target, one of them would break out from the other. The group of 2 would then distract the Nazis and their giant floodlights and machine guns as the other plane would bomb the target. They would then repeat this process, and each Night Witch would release their payload. This technique was successful throughout the war, and the Nazis were continuously tricked by it. It was also a bit safer for the witches as it ensured that at least one plane would make it out alive. However, they carried no parachutes or radar, and so when they were hit, well, they were pretty much dead. Although, they sometimes flew low enough that they could be covered by trees and bushes, and this made a better chance of survival. Their engines would sometimes cut out in midair, and they would have to climb out on their wings and fly in order to restart them. So as you can see, this was not a safe job. So that's it for the thought bubble.
Now we knew how they flew, but who started the Night Witches?
Her name was Colonel Marina Raskova, and she was Russia's Amelia Earhart.
Born in 1912 and the navigator for the Russian Air Force by 1933, she embodied the hopes and dreams of many women.
Before the war, she made a record-breaking flight across Russia. On this flight, the plane was damaged, and Raskova bailed herself out in order to save the other 2 women on board. She spent days in the Siberian wilderness, and upon her arrival back home, Stalin was impressed by her bravery and her quick thinking.
When the war broke out, she applied to be a part of the Air Force, but was rejected along with hundreds of other women. She later used her relationship with Stalin to convince him to let her form her own regiments. Out of this rose the co-ed 586th and the 587th Regiments, and the later 588th Night Witches.
Sadly, Raskova did not survive the war, and she was killed on a mission in 1943 at the age of 30. She was then awarded a full state funeral and given a tomb in the Red Square. You can still see her tombstone today. Now let's go to the open letter.
An open letter to Russian names. You're extremely hard to pronounce. To me, these names just look like random letters from the alphabet selected to be a name, like Yakov, for example. Easy to say. But Lyubala? Lyubala is sure to be butchered. I just wish that my name could be as cool as the Russian Slavic / Night Witches names. Yours truly, Gracie Pelton.
Perhaps one of the most famous pilots was Nadia Popova.
In June of 1941, Popova was forced out of her home when the German army invaded and killed her entire family, and then turned her home into a Gestapo police station.
On her first mission, both her escort pilots and navigator were killed, but she was still able to complete her raid and return to the base unharmed.
Towards the end of the war, her plane was shot down and she crashed in the middle of retreating Russian troops. The soldier who saved her was the man she married.
She was also the one known for stealing those fashion magazines from the Germans.
Previously stated, most of the Night Witches survived the war, and so did the actual regiment.
Yes, the regiment became the 46th Tamian Guards Night Bomber Aviation Unit, known as Stalin's Falcons.
And 23 were awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union, while many others were awarded the Gold Star, and even more, Order of the Red Star, and some even received the Order of Lenin.
Most of the witches remained relatively unknown and out of the media, continuing to fly for the Soviet Union after the war.
Little did they know that they would remain in the minds of people everywhere as a legend for generations to come.
That's all we have time for today. This is Crash Course World History, and thanks for watching. Their planes sounded like a witch's broomstick. But you know, who really knows what that...
Along with hundreds of rose the co-ed.
Sorry, I messed up. I apologize.